Excuse me, sir. We're doing a quick opinion video. Would you be willing to give your opinion on what you think Bigfoot is in 2 seconds? No? Okay. All right. No problem. All right. So here we are. We're going to do a quick little interview on what you guys think of Bigfoot. Are you a believer? Are you a skeptic? What do you think?
Well, I certainly believe it's a possibility. Of course, everybody wants to believe that. I'm a, science-based guy at heart anyway, but so I'm looking for that evidence, hard evidence, but I mean, you got to believe a little bit.
Yeah.
You got to believe a little bit. At least keep that as an option. Keep searching. A lot of the I think tone of the conference here is expedition and all that search. Man, that's what it's all about.
What about you, sir? You're a believer in Bigfoot?
I am a believer, and I think it's definitely possible that he's out there and anything can happen. And there's definitely good evidence that I can believe in.
Well, you heard it right there. They are believers. Okay, second question. Do you believe that he is just a mere animal, undiscovered, some sort of a hybrid, or do you fall more into the category of an interdimensional, sort of a spiritual entity?
For right now, I tend to more think that he's probably a relic of some type of, species or, Australopithecus, ancient apes, that type of thing. Not quite into the interdimensional realm type thing right now. I'm more of a fossil type guy, ancient animal type thing.
Perfect. So final question, have you guys had any personal encounters with a Bigfoot?
How about Little Feet?
No, we haven't.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys.
Always searching.
Hey, thank you guys so much. You have a great rest of your conference. We really appreciate it. Okay, so here we are, Bigfoot Conference. You're here. Are you a believer or are you a skeptic?
Believer.
So, if you're a believer, what do you think? Is Bigfoot some sort of animal, undiscovered species, some sort of remnant of this other species, or do you fall more into the category that he's an interdimensional spiritual entity?
I don't know. It could be anything. I guess I'm of the belief that it could be either or, maybe both. I don't know. Yeah, it could be just like a branch of ape or primate, or maybe it's, more in the alien realm of things. I don't know.
Okay, well, final question.
All right.
Have you ever had a personal encounter with a Bigfoot?
Oh, well, my older brother.
Well, I hope he's not watching this podcast. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your conference.
Thank you.
Here we are, Ocala, Florida. We are doing an interview here. So, my friend, have you ever experienced your own encounter with a Bigfoot?
Yes.
Okay.
Twice.
So would you mind sharing a little bit of that experience in a 2-minute version?
Yes. I can do that. In the first weekend in January 2003, I was working in Tampa at a magazine company, and I had worked all night. I worked second shift anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like I was tired. I'm saying that for a reason. And I come out and I go on 301 out of Tampa, going north because I lived in Zephyr Hills at the time. Well, on the way up there, I was playing with the radio, and out of my left peripheral, I seen movement. So in that split second, I'm thinking car or deer. So I slam on the brakes, and I look over, and I didn't know what I was looking at. I had no idea, because what I seen was about 7 to 8 foot tall in the ditch line, standing right across the road. And the thing about it is, it was white and huge black eyes. And another thing, why I didn't know what I was looking at, it had a red face, like if I got a sunburn, some bad sunburn. That's how his face was. Huge black eyes, flat nose, a slightly conical head, but white, thick hair, shoulders, arms, back. Well, what I could see, because he was facing, his right was more toward me than anything. It was like in mid-stance, and he was not moving. The only thing I seen move when I was going like 15 miles an hour after I slammed on my brakes was his eyes. And I could see the white in his eyes. He would follow me with his eyes. Was not moving a finger or nothing. He just like froze, like, do you see me? And he had a shocked face, and I'm sure I was like, what is that? He was looking dead at me, dead at me.
Whoa, so that's huge, because that's different than the traditional way that these creatures are described. So if you had to say, if you had to guess, is this just a physical flesh and blood creature? Is this something that's interdimensional or spiritual? What would you say is your opinion on this matter?
To give the honest, quick answer, all three. All three. Personally, I'm a Christian. I go to church, and what I was going through at the time before going up to seeing that creature, I needed to get my mind off of that. To tell you the short version, that's one thing. Literally since then, I listened to literally thousands of podcasts, and I hear this. They see orbs or lights before they have the experience out in the woods. So yeah, it's connected somehow with UFOs. 100%. You can't convince me of anything other. And you can believe it or not, I know there's skeptics out there. There's no UFOs. Okay, that's fine. I get it. I didn't believe it either. I didn't believe in none of this before '03. None of it. Now I know better.
Well, we got cut off by the music, but we totally agree. You know, the Bible itself says that there is a profound connection to the things that we can't see and the things that we can see. So I think there's more out there than people let on. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your conference.
So I'm with the Soul Trap. So first I'd like to just ask you your name and how you kind of got here where you are today, what you're doing here, what you're selling, and stuff like that.
Okay. Hi, my name's Famous John Irvin, and I'm a writer and artist, and I've been following Bigfoot my whole life. But about 3 years ago, let me get this here. I used to be a caricature artist at Busch Gardens and Zoo Tampa and the Florida Aquarium. So I started posting some drawings made of Bigfoot, and people said I should start making a Bigfoot coloring book. So I did, but it's not just a coloring book. It's kind of like I don't know if you see of a history of all the famous Bigfoot encounters.
Okay.
And so that's my first book. And then I also released my version, you know, the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I got Goldilocks and the Three Bigfoot. So it's an illustrated storybook. But I have like a lot of updated characters about Goldilocks, and you know, kind of makes more sense here. Because in the Three Bears story, they got furniture and beds and everything. So mine are more crudely made by like Bigfoot. So that's my books. And then I also I made the drawing of the Bigfoot playing poker. So I got my shot glasses and porcelain bugs and playing cards, and all these are on sale at a big. There's a huge Bigfoot store in Washington called Sasquatch the Legend, and they also have a website. So all my stuff's on sale there. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people wearing their shirts coming through here today, so that's great. So we're a paranormal podcast studio. We like to cover interesting topics and things like that. So in your opinion, what do you think Bigfoot is? Do you think it's an undocumented creature? Do you think it's maybe more spiritual or ultra-dimensional? In your opinion, your take, what do you think it is?
Well, I believe it's a flesh and blood creature, and I think it's been here as long as we have, because these reports go back 1,000 years. So I'm not into the whole UFO and jumping into time warps and all that type of stuff. But I kind of think, you know, a lot of human beings have Neanderthal DNA. I do. And so I think other prehistoric advanced primates crossbred, and they over the years adapted to Bigfoot. So that's like kind of a caveman type of thing.
Makes sense. All right, and then my last question would be very simply, have you had any experiences yourself that you'd be willing to share, or any that you know of personally that you'd like to share today?
Well, not really. I'm friends with David Shealy that owns the Sasquatch headquarters in the Everglades. He sells my books. He has a campground by his headquarters. So I stayed there the night. And in the middle of the night, I went outside and I heard a whoop. So maybe Could have been a whooping crane, I don't know, but that's about it. I don't really go out investigating the woods that much. I'm more of an artist and writer.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate the interview, and look at the artwork. Check out this stuff. It is great stuff. Thank you for coming on the Soul Trap and letting us interview you. Have a wonderful day. How did you find yourself here today? Are you a Bigfoot believer, or are you just here to kind of experience the convention that's gathered today?
I would say I'm here to experience. I'm working a booth over there. So I would say I'm a little bit skeptical, but I believe in the dream.
Gotcha.
In the hunt.
In the hunt, I get that. I'm a little bit of a skeptic myself, but feel free to join. Feel free to join. So I was asking, how did you find yourself here today? And would you say you're a believer or a skeptic with Bigfoot? So I'd like your answer as well.
So I heard about this a couple years ago, and so I was here one year, and me and my friend saw it, and we were like, we don't know much about Bigfoot, but we got to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we have to. I think he's just fun to draw. You know what I mean? I haven't had any experiences, but every time I do it, I do a little more research. I write down the speakers and just kind of dive into it. So it's hard to say whether. I guess I lean skeptic just as a person, but I'm always open. You know?
No, I get that 100%. I might have to say that I agree with you guys on the take there. So my second question, I would say, is when you're in a group of people like this, there seems to be two big beliefs. Either that Bigfoot or Sasquatch are physical creatures that haven't been cataloged or documented yet, or that they are some type of spiritual, altered-dimensional being. What is your guys' opinion on which you would lean more towards?
You first.
I definitely lean more towards spiritual, you know? I think there's a world that we don't really quite comprehend, and, you know, do I want anything to do with it? No.
You said you're not trying to, have an encounter.
Yes.
For sure.
I think how often I hear about encounters, they usually involve behavior, movements, things like that you can't really explain it. You know what I mean? So that always lends me that, plus whenever people often bring them up in relation to extraterrestrials or even just seeing UFOs, stuff like that. So it's always got me wondering, at first I was like, isn't it just a big monkey? You know what I mean? And then the more I dig into it, people are experiencing things where it's this is hard to explain on multiple levels. You know what I mean? And then the way they're here and then they're gone. Right? That's giving supernatural to me, you know? Yeah.
No, I kind of agree with that as well. It's a very interesting study. So my last question to you guys is, you've been here today, you're hosting a booth, you've been to events like this before. So many people come through. There's so many people who are interested in Bigfoot and hunting down and trying to find the truth. Why haven't big branches of science or government tried to work with groups of people like us to find this creature? In your opinion, why do you think it is still something that people just turn a blind eye to? That's a hard question, but what's your best opinion on it?
I feel like it's a knee-jerk reaction. It's similar to how extraterrestrials are approached, because it's decades of hesitation, maybe periods where people are and groups are a little more maybe we should look into this, and then it kind of falls out and people hit it with that knee-jerk real skepticism. They don't even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, right? You know, I don't know, but it's with UFOs, for example, you have a whole movement of disclosure that's in the last 5 years or so, right? So you kind of never know when it's going to pick up. It usually just depends on key players coming out and being all right guys, this is real. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, I feel it might have to do with who's leading groups and movements, you know what I mean? And
so you'd say you're a believer in Bigfoot?
Yeah. By far, yeah.
So one of the most common things that I've picked up from here is that there's two major beliefs when it comes to Bigfoot. That one, he's either an undocumented creature or species that we haven't really gotten a chance to study yet, or that he's a spiritual or altered dimensional being that we can't get to. So in your opinion, what do you think it kind of leans more towards?
Honestly, I would say he's elusive, as in he goes through, there's portals he's able to go through, and that's why we're not able to catch him.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
So kind of somewhere in between all of that?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've always kind of leaned more towards a skeptic side for it, so I can see that. That makes a bit more sense to me, but I'm like an evidence person.
Right.
So that's what I always look for.
So I'm used to evidence-based practice, but still, there's so much that hasn't been explored. So I definitely think, Bigfoot and other paranormal stuff, they're definitely out there.
So in your opinion, something you can look around and see tons of people here who are interested in this. Why hasn't there been a large group of professionals or a government-backed operation to try and prove the existence of Bigfoot? In your opinion, why do you think that is?
Well, I think a lot of it is due to the fact that with, as far as with the government, they don't want to let it out, but they might know, just because they don't want people to panic and it can cause, a different reaction. So I think that's really why they're trying to keep it hidden. But they know.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea. And then last but not least, do you have any experiences with Bigfoot that you've gone through? Or
unfortunately, I have not, but I'm still looking. Every time I go hiking, I always got my camera out.
The goal is to get one day, right?
Exactly.
For sure.